But today we're starting a brand new message entitled Hope to Healing. So what has healing got to do with hope? How does hope lead to healing? I'm going to start by asking the question, have you ever tried to help yourself, but then you only made things worse? I know I've had stories of when I've tried to help, but then when I get involved, things end up worse. I don't know if it's me. Hopefully it's not just a me thing that when life gets difficult, I try and help and it just gets worse. And maybe it's something that happened to you and it's how you responded. Maybe you should have just said nothing, but you didn't. And you tried to explain yourself and you tried to say something and you just got yourself. Have you ever been in one of those circumstances where someone just keeps talking and it's like they're digging a bigger hole for themselves? And you're like, please just stop talking. Maybe you've done that to yourself. And we try and help, but we make it worse. Or other ways is we go through easy fixes. Things that seem easy and it should just be a simple, I'll do this to get that, doesn't always work out that way. And I'm not a car guy. I don't really know how cars work, but there's some simple things I can do on a car. I can check the tire pressure. Can anyone do that? Okay, that's simple enough. I can open the bonnet and make me look really manly. Anyone do that? Okay. I can change the water in my wipers. Yeah, easy enough. Okay, it's just pop it open, pour water in, close it. Okay. Then, okay, this is impressive. I can change the oil as well. Well, actually, that sounds more impressive. I can't change it. I can add oil to the oil that's already there. I said it out loud and I was like, I can't change oil. I can add oil if we're low on oil. And then, I don't know much about cars, but then I found this warning on my dashboard. I never knew it before. And I needed some coolant. So there's the water, there's the oil, and then there's the coolant. So I'd never heard of the coolant before, so obviously Googled it, asked my brother-in-law. I was like, hey, what's the coolant? And it cools down the engine when it's working, keeps it cool at a good level. So I'm like, great, sounds good, because the engine was overheating. So I needed more coolant. So I went to the shop, it said coolant on the bottle. So I was like, okay, I need coolant. This bottle says coolant. I'll get it. So bought my coolant, opened it up, put my coolant in, and I was like, that's it. Easy. I could be a mechanic. Anyone want help in their cars? I'm your man. So filled it with coolant, thought, okay, this is the problem sorted, no problem. Was driving, ended up at a junction, and as I stopped at the junction, just steam just everywhere. Steam pouring out from underneath the bonnet. And I was like, what's going on? And I could see the engine heating up a bit. And I was like, okay. And I didn't do the smart thing of like pull over straight away. I'm like, I'm 2 miles from home. I'll just go home and I'll fix it at home, which isn't a good idea either. So I opened it up, still more smoke coming in. I'm like, why is there so much steam coming and whatever? I forgot to put the cap back on the coolant. So as the coolant was heating up, it was producing fumes and smoke and everything. And that easy fix of just replacing the coolant led me to replacing my engine. Because my engine had overheated, the head gasket warped, and I needed a new engine. So if you're a parent in here and your kid is learning to drive, or they will learn to drive, don't get them a good car. Okay? Get them a terrible car because they will make mistakes. I learned all my mistakes on my car. I had to get a new engine. I had to replace the electrics twice. It was banged. It was scraped. And I'm a good driver. So if you're not a good driver, they will be even worse than that. But we try and do things like this. Oh, it's an easy fix. I'll sort it out. And we all do this. We're all in the same category where we try and fix something ourselves. And then actually we make it worse. Whether we say the wrong things, we dig ourselves a hole, or we mess up. Sometimes we just do the wrong thing. Or we try to fix it our own way. And instead of making it better, we make it worse. And we keep digging that hole and making things, instead of getting better, improving, makes it worse. And then as it gets worse, then here comes the lie. We tell ourselves the lie that there's no hope. That if I can't fix it, I tried and it didn't work. So if I tried and it didn't work, well then, what's the point? Where's the hope? If I can't do it, no one else can. And we feel like that with menial things, like funny things of replacing things in car. But what about the serious stuff? What do we do when serious things come our way? Maybe it's physical sickness, emotional pain. It's a broken relationship. It's a situation that feels impossible. What do? We still try and take matters into our own hands. We try and solve the issue. We try and find the problem and look and seeing how we can solve it out. But in reality, it doesn't work. When we take our hands on it, when we try and solve our problem, it doesn't work. It only gets worse. When we're in control, it normally gets worse. And as it's getting worse and worse, we start to feel helpless and we start to feel hopeless. What can we do? Where can we turn to? I've tried to solve it and nothing's going my way. And we tell ourselves, if I can't fix it, then no one can. If I've tried my hardest, surely if it's my life and I want to try and fix it, I'm going to try the hardest. And if I can't do it, surely no one else. I want to encourage you, but what if there was another way? What if your way isn't the only way? What if the answer isn't in what you can do, but what God can heal? Maybe it's not about our effort, but what He can do for us. So we're going to answer the question today, how does God's help give us hope for healing? So God has help for us. Maybe you don't know that. Maybe you're not a Christ follower, maybe first time in church, and you don't know that there's actually help out there given to you by God. So with this help, how does it give us hope for healing? And as Christ followers, we need to be reminded that we don't need to do life in our own strength. That so often we take back some areas of our life and we try to help ourselves. We try to learn as much as we can and get as much wisdom and understanding as we can so we can help ourselves. But God gives us help. So we're going to answer the question, how does God's help give us hope for healing? And we're going to answer the question by looking at a passage found in the New Testament, found in Mark chapter 5, verse 24 to 34. And Mark is one of the Gospels. The Gospels is like the biographies of Jesus. Gospel means good news. So the good news of Jesus. And Mark is one of them. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And Mark is the shortest one. And it's the one that was written first. And it's short, it's sweet, it's straight to the point. So if you've never read any of the Bible, never read anything about Jesus, I would recommend starting in Mark. It's straight to the point. It's giving you all the main points about Jesus and who He is and what He done. And it will cover everything that you need. But it's an important book to read. And we find this story in it in Mark's Gospel. And Mark uses Peter, who was close to Jesus, his account of what happened. So he's interviewing Peter, asking him how it went. And then people used this as a resource for their news as well. And we look at this chapter 5 and this passage that we're going to read. And Jesus is on his way to somewhere. He's on a journey. A religious leader said, "Can you come to my house and heal my daughter?" So Jesus says yes, and Jesus is on his way. So just like us, we're on a journey called life, and things interrupt us. And in this passage, we're going to see what this interruption meant for Jesus, what happened in this interruption. And hopefully what we take out of this interruption will help you when disappointment interrupts your life as well. So we start our story in verse 24. And it says this in verse 24. So it says, "So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him." Like celebrities today, and paparazzi are trying to get in and trying to get photos, trying to get close to them, trying to get autographs, whatever it may be, just to be close to them. So anywhere Jesus went, there was a large crowd. And just like us today, there's a large crowd. There's many different types of people. There's young and old, employed, unemployed, clean, unclean. In the society that we find ourselves, this passage finds itself in. And there's a large group of different people, nationalities, just like us. But then the next verse singles in on one person. In verse 25 it says, "And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. So Jesus knew that this one person was in the crowd. And maybe you feel like you're hiding today, that you're in a crowd and Jesus doesn't know where you are. I want you to know today that Jesus knows exactly who you are. He knows that you're here today And he has a plan and a purpose and wants to speak to you today. And just like this woman, he knew this woman out of this large crowd was in the middle of it. And she had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. This woman had a desperate condition. 12 years. If I have a cold for one day, I'm out. Like, man flu is terrible. Any men out there agree? If we have man flu for 1 or 2 days, it is difficult. It is hard. We don't know how we're going to go on. We can't see how we're going to make it until next week. But this woman had a desperate condition for 12 years. She tried and tried and tried, but 12 years was still in the same boat. And not just that, she was socially and spiritually outcasted. So in this time, she was socially outcast because she was called unclean. So she wasn't allowed near people. And if people came near her, she had to tell them that she was unclean. That don't go near me, because if you come near me, well, then you will become unclean too. So she was socially outcast and spiritually outcast. She was far from God. And it continues on in the story to explain what had happened to her. In verse 26, it said, she had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. Imagine using all your resource, everything that you have, and yet getting worse. Maybe you've been like that. If I buy this product, things will get better. If I buy electric, what you call one of those that cuts the grass, lawnmower, it will solve all my problems. If I have a robot hoover, then that's less work for me to do. If I spend all that I have to solve some menial problems that I have, well, then life's going to get easier and easier. But in the serious stuff of life, when we throw money at things and we try and solve our problems, they only get worse. So imagine how she felt when she tried to see many doctors, spent all that she had, and yet still got worse. She was disappointed and exhausted. Imagine going through all that pain and turmoil to yet just be at the same place time and time and time again. She was physically deteriorating. 12 years this was going on. She was financially depleted. She had no money left. She spent all that she had. And then she was emotionally drained. That feeling of hope, oh, maybe this doctor will help. And then being disappointed again. Maybe this doctor will help. And then being disappointed again. Maybe if I put money into this, and then disappointed again. Maybe I'll try this option. I'm being disappointed again. She was emotionally drained. She tried to help herself, but it only got worse. Imagine that feeling. That 12 years of suffering with this. She tried to help herself. She did all that she could. She's seen many doctors. She tried to put all her money into it, but it only got worse. So no matter what happens to us, we're like, why does this not work? Why time and time and time again is there not a solution? And we can feel her frustration because we've been there. We've tried to knock on doors. We think what might be a solution doesn't turn out to be a solution. We know that pain and frustration that she went through trying to help herself, but it only got worse. And then this pivotal moment in her story happens in verse 27. It said, when she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. Her story was going down the drain. It was getting worse and worse. Nothing seemed to be helping. And yet this pivotal moment, she heard about Jesus. She heard that there was a man called Jesus who could possibly help, could possibly heal her. And maybe if this is your first time in church and you've never heard about Jesus, you've never heard of what he can do in your life, I encourage you to continue to listen. Or maybe you have heard about him and you've just thrown him off to the side as another option, as another way. Or maybe you're here and you know your journey of how you heard about Jesus, put your faith in him, and then your life was forever changed. And we never should forget as Christ followers that story of how one day we were far from him and then we heard him And our faith begins by hearing. How can we have faith if we don't hear about Jesus? So I'm glad that you're in the room today hearing about Jesus. And as she heard about Jesus, she found herself in this crowd trying to get close to him. And as this crowd was bustling and big and there was so many people, she was trying to squeeze through. It's like getting to the front of a line or in the concert. It's like trying to squeeze through people, trying to dodge them, trying to go over, under, any way to get to where she needed to be. She had to push through people, but she also had to push through shame and fear and disappointment. She pushed through things that were internal as well as external. And maybe you're here and you need to push through some things. Maybe there's things that have held you back from a relationship with God. Things that held you back growing your faith in God. Things holding you back from putting your trust and faith in him. But she moved past all this, internally and externally, and she moved towards Jesus. And we need to do the same. Jesus waits here with his arms wide open saying, come to me. I want your pain. I want your disappointment. I want your hopelessness. I want everything that you want to give me. But yet we need to take that step and say, Jesus, here it is. So as she took a step towards him, we need to move towards Jesus if we want to experience true hope and healing. So despite her pain, despite everything that she was going through, she didn't give up hope completely. After these 12 years, she could have thrown up the head and it's like, surely there's no way to solve this. Yet, in her pain, she thought, well, maybe Jesus is the last hope that I have. And we read in the story that she thought, if only I touch his clothes, I will be healed. This is what she's thinking in her head. Well, if I touch him, I don't need to create a big moment. If I just get close enough and just touch him, maybe that will be enough. And because of her condition that was embarrassing and she was unclean and she'd be condemned for touching Jesus or even being in the crowd, she wanted to do this secretly. She wanted to go up quietly and just touch him. Because imagine people found out. She wasn't supposed to be in the crowd because she was unclean. So she was supposed to be an outcast. She was supposed to be over there away from people. But yet she found herself in the middle. So if people found out, it wouldn't be favorable for her. And she didn't want to tell people because it was embarrassing too. Struggling with this for so long. So she wanted to do this secretly. And maybe you're on this boat and you're like, well, I want healing, but I don't want everyone to know about it. I don't want to shout it from the rooftops. It's a bit embarrassing. How do I possibly get around not trying to say this word or tell people my facts of life and whatever? But we have a prayer team, and you can give them as little information as you wish. You can give them the whole story. You can give them no story. And you can just simply say, can you pray for me? Can you pray for my work? Can you pray for my family? And that's all. And we believe that God knows everything, so he can figure it out. We don't need to know as the people who would pray for you. So you can do it secretly. If you want, you can go and say, hey, will you pray for this? And we would love to pray for you today. She would not openly ask Jesus to be healed, but she thought, if only I get closer to him. If only I'm in reach of him. If only I touch him and get close to him. Her fear said, stay away. You're an outcast. You shouldn't be near him. Just stay away. Wallow in whatever you're going through. Grieve and have sorrow because it hasn't worked out. But her faith said, get close. Her faith said, maybe he is who he says he is. Maybe he is the one that can break this 12-year cycle. So maybe your faith today is saying, stay away. Don't get close to him. Don't start a relationship with God. I don't even know why you're in church today. Maybe your fear is saying, stay away. But her faith said, get close. If you've got faith in here, get closer to God. Stay close to him. Don't drift away. Stay close to him. And if you have no faith today, maybe for the first time, why not take a step towards him? Get close. See what it feels like to have a relationship with him, because he will not disappoint. So stay close and be close to him. And then this incredible thing happened. She got close to him and touched him. And in verse 29, it said, immediately. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. I feel relief just reading that, being freed from suffering, a 12-year suffering, time and time and time again, something she went through daily that she struggled with. She was now in one moment freed from suffering. When she touched him, she was made whole. When she was able to reach out and touch Jesus, she was made well. And in this society, she was seen as unclean. And if she touched someone who was clean, well, then that would make them unclean. So people thought, well, if she touched Jesus, well, then surely Jesus is unclean. But it didn't work like that. Jesus didn't become unclean. She became clean. She became whole. And this is the gospel, that we don't stay in Jesus with our sin. We are made whole. As we go to him, we don't rub off on him. He rubs off on us. When we spend time with him, we become more like him. How amazing is it that God doesn't stoop to our level? Can you imagine if we rubbed off on God? He would become like us, bad-mouthing our boss behind their back, complaining about people, not being life-giving, being negative. But who is thankful that God actually rubs off on us, that we become more like him? We become more gracious and loving and caring and life-giving because he makes us whole. So as in this moment where she reaches Jesus, she becomes whole. She is freed from suffering. Jesus, it says, at once Jesus realized that the power had gone from him. So as she touched him, he felt the power leave him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? And it's crazy because obviously there's a lot of people around him, pushing into him, bumping into him. There could have been anyone. But Jesus knew that there was a specific person and a specific thing had happened. He knew that she was in the crowd and someone had been healed. And this wasn't about like, who was it? And telling them off. And it's like, who do you think you are? This wasn't just about healing her body, but restoring her identity. This was just more than her physical that she was feeling. Jesus wanted to completely restore her. So Jesus is like, who is it? Who touched me? And then it says in our verses in verse 33, then the woman knowing what had happened to her came and fell at his feet and trembling with fear told him the whole truth. Jesus, this is my story. This is who I am. This is what I done. And healing comes when we come honestly. When we stop hiding things, when we're honest and open with those around us, open and honest with God himself. So often we try and hide things, maybe because of embarrassment, rejection, the consequences. But she risked embarrassment and rejection. But as she risked it, she found acceptance. She found Jesus. She found someone who loved her and cared for her and wanted the best for her. And what we hide in fear, Jesus heals in grace. That we hide some things because we're fearful. What would people say? What will I do when it comes out? And we hide in fear. But Jesus heals in grace. Jesus heals and gives us what we don't deserve. He gives us life and life to the full. He gives us health and healing and love and mercy. He gives that to you today. It's on offer to you. Jesus wants to give it to you. So as she explains the whole truth, as she tells Jesus her story and what had just happened, Jesus said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. You've been freed from your suffering. She came into this story, came into this interruption, came into this as a bleeding woman, and she left as a daughter. She left completely changed, not just her physical condition, but her identity. And you too today can leave differently. You can come in one way, but you can leave as a son. You can leave as a daughter. You can leave as someone loved by God. You don't need to enter one way and stay that way for the rest of your life. You can leave differently today when Jesus gets involved in your life. Her private pain required a public act of faith. And maybe you have something going on privately. Maybe there's something that's hurting you. Maybe it's a physical thing, an emotional thing, a spiritual thing, and you've kept it hidden and private. But it requires a public act of faith. What are you going to do to take a step closer to Jesus? As I said, we have a prayer team. We have a connect group for you. We have our next steps team. We have people in this church that want to connect with you. But what is your public act of faith? Maybe it is for the first time saying yes to Jesus and filling out a next steps card and going on a journey with our team and saying, I want to give my life to Jesus. Maybe it is joining a connect group. Maybe it is going for prayer. But what is your next step? What are you going to do? And this wasn't just physical healing. It was total restoration. It wasn't just healing in one part of her life. It was every part of her life. Because when God works in our life, everything changes. And this story reminds us that healing makes us hope again. There's healing available for you. And through that healing, it can help us hope again. So this interruption that happened to Jesus, just walking on life's journey, and we see through this that healing makes hope possible again. But as difficulties come your way, as you're on your journey of life and things come against us, disappointment and pain and hurt, will you remember that healing makes us hope again? That when things sideline us and take us out and hurt us and disappoint us, just like this interruption in this story, will you be reminded that healing can make us hope again? So what is your next step? You've got this information, okay? I've got healing available to me. I've got hope that's available through that. I've got God on my side. But what do I do with it? Maybe you're here and you've been to churches all your life, and the church just sort of gives you something to read, and then you're like, where do I even start? What do I do with this? How do I make this applicable to my life? Well, we want to help you out today and help you discover what your next steps might be. Instead of just throwing out a verse and a story in the Bible and being like, okay, there you go, deal with it yourself. We want to make it applicable for you. So that's not just a hopeful message, but it's helpful. And there's maybe people here that are trying to fix things in your own strength. Are you in that place that you're trying to fix things in your own strength? That you have the resource, you have the people, you have the energy. I'll fix it myself. Or maybe you're shame. Are you stuck in shame, disappointment, or fear? Maybe that's you. Like, where do I turn? What do I do? I've tried for years and nothing seems to work out. And maybe you've been trying to have a perfect moment of there needs to be a choir. It needs to be sunny outside. An angel needs to appear before me. And I need to have my favorite food right here. And you're waiting for this perfect moment. But faith doesn't wait for a perfect moment. Faith interrupts. This woman wasn't waiting for a one-to-one with Jesus and was able to sit and communicate and have a great time. She just reached out in the busyness. And maybe you think that this isn't the perfect time for you. Oh, it's bank holiday weekend. I've got stuff to do. The kids are off tomorrow. What am I going to do with them? And I'll wait until life gets a little more settled. Or I'll wait until I have a bit more money. I'll wait until I have a one-on-one. I'll wait until... But faith doesn't wait for a perfect moment. So today can be that moment that you receive healing. So first thing that we can do is look around. Look around at the people that God has put around you, because often God works through people. We say all the time that we want God to speak to you. And we sometimes complicate it and we think, oh, God is this booming voice and we're waiting for it. Or he'll write it in the sky, or it will just happen magically. But God often works through people. That maybe you hear my voice, but at the same time you feel God speaking to you. Why am I crying involuntarily? Why did that resonate with me? Why can I not stop thinking about that one point? It's because God's trying to speak to you. And anytime I speak, anytime I communicate, anytime that I'm preparing a message, I'll pray to God and say, God, use your words and not mine. Speak for me and through me. So even though you hear my words, my prayer is always that God would work through me. So God uses other people to speak to you, to encourage you, and to help you. But so often we suffer in silence. I can do it by myself. It's all right. Do you need help? No, I've got it. It's okay. And we suffer in silence. But healing often starts in community. When we're together, when we're with others in community, healing often starts. So again, I want to invite you to join a group and experience healing. We have this saying that if you've had a good week, your connect group needs you. But if you had a bad week, you need your connect group. However you feel, whatever week you've had, it's good to get around people to encourage you. Even just to have peace for a part of your week. To be around people who are encouraging and life-giving. And it's a step out of your reality for a moment. They can help you and support you. You can build your faith in these groups. You can enjoy an activity in these groups. But life is better connected. We join groups and experience healing. I want you to get round the right people that when you're going through the worst week of your life, you can reach out to them. You have a shoulder to cry on. You have people to celebrate with. So I want to encourage you, join a group. Not just so that we have more people in groups. That's not our goal. Our goal is this, that you would experience healing. That your life would never be the same. So look around. Who has God got in your life for a purpose to encourage you, to help you, to guide you towards healing? Second thing we can do is let God. Maybe you've tried and tried, but have you ever give God a chance? Maybe you've tried everything else. Why not trust Jesus? Why not just say, God, after this message, I know that I've been throwing money at this, and my energy at this, and my knowledge at this. But God, what would you do? What would you say about this? How would you react to this moment and giving it over to God? And faith means letting go of what I can do and trusting what He can do. And if you're not of faith, this is difficult. To give control of your whole life to someone else. It's like signing your power of attorney to someone else. And if there's solicitors here, they'll always tell you, like, be careful. You need to trust this person. Are you sure you're in your right mind? Because they can have control over you and they can direct your life. But faith means letting go of what I can do and saying, God, I give you my life. I trust you, knowing that your way is above my way and trusting what He does. And as Christ followers of time where we give Him control, but how often do we, I'll take that bit back. I'll work on that. Or I'll get better at this area. And we start taking areas of our life back. But people of faith, if you're a Christ follower in here, let go. Let go of that area again. Maybe you want to raise your family the way you want to raise it. Why not let God have a chance? Why not let Him direct you? Maybe you're getting degrees after degrees after qualification after qualification to get where you want to be. Or maybe say, well, God, I trust you with my plan. I trust you with the direction that I have for my life. So faith means letting go of what I can do and trusting what He can do. So we look around. Who has God placed in your life? Let God, give God a shot. Give God an opportunity in your life. And lastly, live out. We walk by faith and not by sight. And this is a verse in the Bible. And we don't walk by what we see. If we walked by our sight, we would maybe feel discouraged and disappointment and hurt because life is real. And if you ever met somewhere where life is just rained down on them hard, there seems to be a struggle, nothing seems to go their way, yet they're positive. Yet they have a hopeful outlook. yet they're thriving and not just surviving. How can they do that? Because their lens isn't their sight. Their lens is by faith. Because by faith, we can trust in Him. By faith, we know things are going to get better. By faith, we believe that God is going to heal us. But don't wait until you're healed. Walk in the truth of what God has already said. Healing is this amazing, magical, unbelievable thing of when someone prays, there will be someone today who will immediately be healed. And we rejoice. And there'll be people here who will gradually be healed. And then there'll be people here that maybe like this woman will have to go through no's and not being healed time and time and time again. And we all struggle with it. But we don't want to wait until that moment we're healed. But we can trust and walk in the truth of what God has already said, that He can and will heal us. So maybe He's going to change our perspective before He changes our person. That maybe we need to change our lens and say, even though I have this diagnosis, I'm walking in faith. Even though that person betrayed me, I'm going to walk in faith. Even though I've got hurt and I've got baggage and I've got cares and I've got disappointments, I'm going to walk in faith because God says He is with me and no one can be against me if He is for me. God has got you. I want to encourage you today that healing makes us hope again. It's available for you today. Healing is available for you today. But just like the woman, we need to reach out. We need to grab hold of Him. So are you going to reach out today? Whether for the first time and saying, Jesus, I want a relationship with you. Maybe for the first time in a while saying, God, I've drifted from you. I'm going to reach out again. Or if you're full of faith today, believing boldly that He can do whatever He wants. And I'm going to reach out to Him in faith. So I want to encourage you, reach out. He is there in front of you, with you and beside you. And as we reach out, we can find hope and help in Jesus. It's available for you today.